So, Alice and I have talked about this a bit, of changing the ZBA from a 3-member board to a 5-member board. I know it was originally on we passed it once in the planning board, this is probably 6 or 7 years ago now, it failed at council. My thought was to allow, if you make it a 5-member instead of a 3-member, everything doesn't have to be unanimous anymore. So there's members that could vote against things if they don't feel comfortable voting for it, and it would still pass. And also, it would kind of add more members to the board and encourage more discussion, without people having to feel that if you, and then you're on the ZBA, you know, without talking against it, that you're immediately going to be against it. So I like to bring that forward sooner rather than later. That's why I'd like to just see what everyone's thoughts are. It'd be a really simple rewrite, just changing one section of the ordinance. I'd like to know what everyone thinks.
So that's in the ordinance?
Yeah, it's
The total amount of members is part of the ordinance?
This ordinance, yeah.
it's in section 15.
I mean, I'm all for it. The only thing I would say is we have a hard time getting volunteers now. How are you gonna fill it? And if you can't fill it, what happens?
Well,
You know, let's
the
say-
quorum would still be 3. So if you couldn't get a 5, it'd be a 3, and you'd have to have the same voting requirements that you do now. So the voting requirements wouldn't change unless you had up to 5.
What do you have now, 3 and an alternate?
3 and
Correct.
yeah.
So, yeah, if you had 5, you need 4
Yeah.
no matter what. You need 4 only there.
Right.
3 plus 1.
Well, if,
The alternate doesn't vote.
Currently now, no.
Most of the time, the alternate doesn't even come.
Yeah.
Yeah, you only.
the alternate would happen, I would assume, is if, let's say there was something going on and one member couldn't make it, the alternate would step in, but then they'd have to participate in everything
Correct.
for that subject, then they would vote.
Which he does, and, you know, most of the time, the only reason he participates is because one of us has a conflict with, who's applying. And I'm all for it being 5, by the way.
I'm sure.
I just want to add,
I
I
just
did,
stay an age indispensable.
I put it out there to all the planners in the state, essentially. They didn't obviously all get back to me, but everyone that did get back to me said they preferred it. To have
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
It just eliminates any kind of,
Well, my,
minimizes any kind of politics too.
my feeling is it's just like, depending on the composition of the board, you know, there's people that are way over this way as far as enforcing the rules, and then there's those people that are more moderate and in the middle. And there's things that have come before us that, you know, it's like, really? We're not gonna let them do this? And then there's one dissenting vote and game over for them. And it's just like, I really think that if we had a better cross-section, it would be advantageous.
So,
Alright?
he's on.
Is there a
it.
way
He's
of
on it.
combining the board?
No, because,
Planning and slash,
no. I don't think you legally can,
No.
because
That's
chapter
not
40A
process.
of the general laws
You have to-
specifically
Correct.
talks about ZBAs
You
and
can't
planning
appeal to the
boards.
same board that denied you.
And a lot of times, the ZBA is the appellate board for the planning board,
Right.
and in some things vice versa, where an applicant has to ask the planning board's permission to return to the ZBA. So you can never
No.
combine them in 2 separate land use
And if
boards.
they didn't like your vote, they
And
wouldn't.
Frank, your meetings are
Yeah.
entirely too long. How about if you were fine?
you'd be the first one to go anyways.
Thank you.
Alright, I'll get to work on that, thank you.
That was more than 5
What
minutes.
letter are you on?
L,
M.
like
people.
leave?
M. Major appliance is where
He's
we
not
are.
really-
That's what I get to
Speeding.
unlock
Speeding.
with,
Speeding.
didn't we?
Yeah, I don't know, I have all of those checked off.
I thought Allison was gonna do a little
No,
research.
lot
on
width,
that.
we left
I
off
did
Allison.
research
Well, she,
a lot.
right, but that's my
You
note
guys
from,
seem
but I thought we got through
Are we
it.
gonna revisit with the building department something? Weren't we?
He
Yeah.
said,
Yes.
Tara with some revisions is my note.
I
We were
have
gonna invite
revisit.
Jay.
the building
Jay.
inspector to discuss the
Yeah.
circle.
I left a message for him that his presence is requested, but the building officials have their own meeting, so I don't know that he'll be coming. So
Thanks.
that might need to be tabled for the time being.
Fine.
So let's
Can we
table
get
that
it
one
through?
and then we'll just, you know what, we'll just,
Now we're on to M.
Which is
Can
what I
you
thought,
maybe
right, which I
email
thought we
them?
did. I thought the
Nope.
idea was that we were maybe not gonna get to that, but that's okay.
so we're
Waiting.
tabling lot width.
Till we,
Oh,
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
Look at that.
oh, we were gonna table it, but you're here.
Well, I got a meeting down there, but.
Alright, that's right. Let's see what you go first. Anybody, do we have it?
Have what?
Yeah.
The
It's in the
diagram.
diagram.
Diagram's here, yeah.
Alright, so what's your take on lot width and the way we
On
got
the
it
old one
written
or
up now?
upstairs? I don't think, I don't know.
Lot width?
Yeah,
With the
Oh.
circle.
with the circle and all that.
Oh, new thing we wrote up?
Yeah.
That was what Tara came up with?
Yeah, it
That
is
was
the,
mine
it's
too.
the,
There's no easy way to come up with trying to, I mean, the ultimate thing is we don't want flag lots.
Sure.
But trying to, come up with a way to measure them. I mean, Tara came up with a way with that circle, it gets a little confusing. Right now, we do average, we do,
because the circle's round?
what's going on with the circle?
the circles are.
We'll see what
You're going back 2 years now, I mean, that's.
Right, no, four.
It's on page 49.
Yeah, the problem is one of them looks misprinted.
See, it looks like it's over.
That's not supposed to be there, right?
Should that be in the circle?
The circle's supposed to fit in within the lot.
Well, we think that,
Yeah, it must
We
be
think
within the
it's a
boundaries of the lot.
mistake.
we
Yeah.
think that that's a mistake,
Yeah.
the way that's drawn. If that was up, then I don't think anybody had a problem understanding it.
Yeah.
But we started getting confused because that was
Well, and what about
Outside
note
the
four?
Note four.
no floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's within the boundaries.
So is that just gone?
Yeah, looks like this one. Oh, this is not from,
Yeah, these are non-conforming.
yeah.
But this
So you
should
said
be
you don't have
non-conforming,
no
but
Yeah, they
it's
should have moved it
outside.
back a little
outside
bit,
line.
so as long as you're
Are you-
beyond the setback,
are you talking
which Y is the
about-
front setback, you're pushed back there, you're fine.
So
Yeah,
we
I
just
know
gotta
circle,
fix
I
the
must
circle.
don't have the notes.
Oh, here.
What I did.
Well, this is.
Well, okay, so the two things with a circle, Jay's confirmed that that circle looks like a misprint.
Correct.
And it should go back. The second thing was number 4,
No.
right?
Well,
Four.
wait, it
Can
can't,
you read number, well, sorry.
it can't go back because it has to be within
It
the
has to be
front
within
setback.
Y.
Yeah,
We just
if
have
you
to
just
make
move it,
smaller.
you gotta move that property line over a little, not move the circle back. Cause you move the circle back, then that's defeating the purpose, cause you could have a skinny little flag lot and move the circle back as far as you want until it makes it work.
Right, because why?
So in this diagram, the right property line is too far inboard,
Well,
it
that-
needs to move over,
Correct.
because the center line of the circle needs to be within
Right
the
where it is.
distance of Y.
Theoretically, that drawing should be down bottom as one that doesn't work.
Correct.
Yeah,
Well,
just keep the
and-
two that do work up there. The two that are right up there.
But it is there, if you look at that.
Correct.
It's
like
kind of
that.
to the left.
But I think that it's
No,
just,
it's a different drawing.
Yeah, but
yeah, but I
But,
think
but I'm
that's
saying
what
if
they
you
use.
take, you could take that drawing, put it down there as another example,
Yeah,
and then just move that one
Line
lot
out.
line on the right out,
and then that's the right.
and that's the right extension. So that
So you
would,
could-
that would come like that.
Now, what was your,
So my thing with it is that the backyard, I don't necessarily think it matters whether or not the circle fits in the backyard. This is more prohibitive. This is more restrictive. The definitions I was looking at were a little less restrictive than this for the backyard. For the front yard, it still had to be, you couldn't do a flag lot, but
So where are you looking, where are you reading backyard, like what are you,
I'm not referring to it.
Do we refer to anything in this about the backyard? Right now.
No,
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 as
but
long as it gets, go back wide, draw the
And
circle
behind
and
the
the access
diameter within
inside
the
the.
rear yard.
right,
Lot.
so what I was looking at was different only in the sense that it was a little less restrictive, because the backyard could become narrower.
yeah, but the backyard could become narrower than this
I was
is,
gonna
right?
say,
On the third
What's
diagram-
restricting the backyard now? Nothing.
The circle has to fit in the backyard.
no, the circle has
No.
to fit within the
No.
front yard setback.
that's
Only-
the
But no,
front
I
The
think
yard.
circle's
and-
only
But
at the
number
setback.
four
Hold
says
on.
and behind the
Well, that's why
Yeah,
we're
right.
trying to get to
behind the
number 4.
diameter with the rear yard.
Right, well, because if you look at the third picture that's up at the top, right?
Yeah, it's got a
Yeah.
skinny
If
backyard.
if that backyard got smaller, the circle wouldn't fit at the top. So it has
So
to
can you
fit,
get rid of them with
Well,
the-
it would if they,
No, that means.
They could bring that to a point.
but not
See
what,
right here?
but not
Yeah.
It'd have to be
before where the
bigger.
circle, it has to be after
Behind
where the circle
setback
is.
line, the circle has to be within it also, that's what that means.
Which, it's fine if you guys are okay with this,
but
that's
the question is
fine.
number 4. That's where
Yeah.
the confusion comes in. So what does
The
that mean,
boundaries
Jay?
of the lot, both
That
in
means
front of
this
the
right here.
diameter and
That
behind
means
the
the
diameter.
behind the setback line, the circle has to also behind that setback line, be within it, so this right here.
So like the other half of the circle, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah, like the second one on the
Why is the
non.
middle
on the
of
bottom,
that?
the
Yeah.
triangle one.
Well, this doesn't.
Right, so this one's
What are
wrong.
we trying to do?
Right.
It's an error.
Prevent
Are we
flag lots.
actually, so you're actually trying to prevent flag lots? Well, let me know when you're gonna vote, because I'm opposed. I've built on flag like lots, my son lives on a flag lot. Properly done, there's nothing wrong with it. This came before the council back in the first 3 or 4 years of that the council existed and it was being. This is a very small compressed town. We're gonna build in nooks and crannies, or we're gonna have no growth. There's no land to expand. You know, the subdivisions are gonna be smaller, the lots are gonna have crazier shapes, but I just don't think that zoning as a rule should be intended to deprive people of the use of their land.
This is already in effect right now, though.
No,
No, it's
No,
not.
it's not.
what we do now is average lot width.
Average lot width.
There's a way to do average lot width, and there's, you know, I mean, there's a right way and a wrong way. But to devise a scheme to eliminate a particular type of lot, I just have a hard time buying into that thing a lot.
So we talked about this, Frank, way back on planning board. Do you remember Rick Obiscus came in with all these different
Yeah,
examples?
that's when it was, I think, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was on planning board then, and we had like, I can't even tell you how many properties that he came forward. Some of them were weird.
Yes.
And that's what he wanted to do.
And that's what he's saying, so,
Yeah.
so how do you
How do
regulate
you
that? I
find
mean,
that
I'm not
happy
opposed to
medium
a
where you
flag
don't
lot,
have
again, if
strip
it's
that
done
big?
properly, but.
Right.
Well, the key, and I've been before the Board of Appeals on various issues, what you have to look at is frontage. Frontage is really what's important. If the lot complies with the frontage requirements on the street, then I think that's where you start. And then you get into lot width, but you gotta understand, they're two separate and distinct measurements. One is frontage on a street or a way, and the other is width.
So some of the definitions I have were based off of the frontage. It had to be a certain percentage of the frontage.
Would
the
you be
minimum lot
okay with
width.
what Allison found?
Right, cause what happened was you'd get someone to do 100-foot frontage or whatever what's the resident?
Minimum 75.
Huh?
75 and
Even in a resident A?
Anywhere in town.
Right,
Yeah.
but that could.
So you get someone with 75 and then they immediately narrow it down to 30. So you got this funnel at the street. And that's what we were trying to get away with. That, to me, that's the wrong way to do it.
That's right.
I mean, if there was a way to write it up where they had to have 75-foot back, straight back till the flag part, I'd be okay with that. But when we got into it, man, there was some crazy looking stuff. There was funnels, like they would narrow it down.
There was like a little strip of land like that. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are some
Yeah.
instances where it's just not good for the neighborhood, I understand that. Everybody understands that.
So
But
how do
what
you
this
find that
doesn't-
medium?
What this doesn't accommodate is somebody that has a really big piece of land and wants to put their house back. Then now you can't do it because there's no such thing as a flag lot. I think that's overly restrictive, and I think you gotta look at the town. You know, if you're Westfield or some of the other towns that have a lot more land area than West Springfield, then maybe you have a different thought process. Well, West Springfield, as I said, is very compressed. We're gonna have to look at what they used to call infill regulations in business districts in order to create, more business use. These are all things that West Springfield's gonna have to do. Just to survive. I mean,
How much of that?
the folks that are on the city council, you know what you await every year from the assessor's office is the new growth figure.
Yep.
So at some point in time, we're gonna run out of new growth on 5 and 20, which we've been living off of for as long as I can remember. So you need new growth, and you need to be a little more clever.
But at some time you're gonna run out of growth anyways.
Well, it's small.
tear down community, I mean.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, but you can't do that either. You can't do that on a 50-foot lot.
So now
See,
you're
that's where I got heartburn.
Yeah, you can't be innovative.
You can't-
And that's
you can't-
when I use the word infill, I think it's a planner's word, isn't it, Allison?
Infill development.
Yeah.
But it's not usually
We
residential.
need to get into that farther on in the book, but,
Yeah.
this is, in my opinion, after being in the business all these years, this is what West Springfield faces.
Right, you can't have both. You can't not have a tear down, an opportunity to do a tear down rebuild and
And
restrict
that
the lots that much. You know what I mean? There's gotta be,
too. A
Well,
happy medium.
you can tear down and rebuild, but there's a process associated with it. And if you take issue with that, then you need to lessen the minimum lot size and setbacks and
Right.
et cetera. That's the issue, not the process. The
Because it
process
becomes
is prescribed by
non-conforming.
law. It's
Right.
not us just being rude about it, you know, like, yes, but it's prescribed by law. So the only way to avoid that is to reduce the minimum dimensional requirements. Some of which may be lot width, some of it's lot area, some of it's setbacks. So there's multiple facets to what you're talking about.
I think the determination of average lot width or lot width, however you want to describe it, needs to be clear. And I think, Jay, you'll agree with me.
We deal with it all the time.
You struggle with it,
Yeah.
you know, everybody's got a different interpretation. But I just don't think it makes any sense to use lot width for an alternative purpose.
So if
I
we
agree.
keep the diagram like this but get rid of the rear part of it, would that
No, the
work?
rear is
for-
this.
Or do we just make a description of what constitutes a flag lot?
right.
Well, I think that needs work. That particular issue, I don't even know if it's in the definitions, but it needs work.
If you wanna allow flag lots, then this is the
It needs a
requirement
thought,
in
I mean,
submission.
you've got a big piece of land,
Hmm?
you've got a couple of daughters, suppose you wanna build them houses and make a little family compound, the only way you can do it is with flag lots. What are you gonna do if you can't?
I mean,
You need
Well, I'm
to be a
agreeing
little
with you.
more, be able to adapt.
I just,
the simple solution to me is just make a definition, don't struggle over lot width, just make a definition for that specific
well, we
type of
still
lot.
need lot
Then we
width.
would
Well, no,
need to-
I'm
then
saying,
we would
not
need to
disagreeing
regulate
with that, but I'm saying, don't
Like, do we allow
concern
that?
yourselves
Like, do
with,
we allow
you know,
that?
Don't
making the
use
lot
lot
width
width.
for everything, it's just like we got heartburn over flag lots, make a definition for flag lots, period.
Which we have none right now.
It's not in there, right? We don't
No.
even have it.
No,
I didn't see flag
We're
lots
gonna
in
move
there.
beyond the Fs.
well, that,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
now,
not
okay,
under
it's a
lot.
subset under lot width.
Right.
That way we don't have to digress.
The whole, well, if we're gonna regulate flag lots, now you gotta go back and add a definition for flag lots.
But why
Yeah,
can't
but
you
we
just
can
put
just-
it under lots?
Just define lot width and then add
BJ, is it-
a definition of a flag lot?
Frontage.
I don't see why we
thing,
need the definition.
This is just.
No, everywhere is 75.
75 now?
Why?
Even in the mirror section?
I don't even know what, I
Well,
don't
those
know
are
what a flag
pre-existing.
lot,
I
I know
don't.
that that's
Yeah,
what
remember,
it's
those are
called. I
pre-existing.
think
Your
you're
house
mostly
burned,
under
Some
I
people
don't know
call
what
it
the
truck
ground.
lots.
Like Allison was saying,
You can't read
national
that.
law 48, you can.
No, you
You
can.
can.
1 and 2 family houses, yes, 3 families, no.
Right,
So
when it
That's
goes over-
national
that
law, has nothing to
definition,
do with
it's,
this.
at no point can it be less than 80% of the frontage.
Right. I don't think anything's wrong with that.
Which
And then you don't have to, and then you don't deal with these circles at all.
Right,
What is it?
and
The
it's,
definition that she has here,
it's no less, it's, the lot width cannot be less than 80% of the required frontage at any point in the lot. So if the required frontage is 100 feet, it can't be narrower than 80 feet at any point.
That ain't gonna work.
So then you alter.
What if a lot comes back, what if it's a triangle? I mean, there's weird lot, like, you look at my lot, it's 8 acres, but it, you know, it's one point of it,
Well, you still have to have minimum lot depth and what have you, and area and all of that, so.
We don't have a minimum lot depth.
well,
We have
Good.
minimum lot width, minimum frontage,
You got a rear
minimum
yard.
we do
But
have-
not-
right,
Well,
so
there's no
what
minimum
80%
rear
of,
yard.
of,
Yeah, we do have depth.
80% of 75 is,
We went through this.
Oh, it's not in here.
57
We
feet,
don't-
so
Well,
no
don't
part of your
require
lot
it
can be
now.
less than 50 feet wide?
No, it would be, I think the way that's written, it's 80% of the lot width, which. in
No,
the-
it's
Right,
frontage.
frontage.
Oh,
So
frontage,
you change
okay.
it by zone, in RA, maybe you want a really big frontage. And then,
Right, but
What is RA, 150? I think it's 150.
I think
so it's
it is.
82.
RA is 150, RA 1 is 125.
Yeah.
well, what did you say, 75,
It's frontage, not width, it's
15,
different.
30, so.
You have to have.
75 is
That's
lot
a straight.
width.
No, 75 is frontage, that's
So it'll be 120.
Then your lot can
So
go
what's
out,
wrong
and you
with
have
that?
minimum lot width, which is either 150, that's what I'm saying.
And on this
No,
kind of
no,
stuff, like I kind of
it's only
defer,
75, but.
I defer to you guys on this, on
Yeah.
these kinds of things, cause I'm not in the building world, I'm not in the.
I mean, part of
What
that's
makes
okay,
sense.
but to say that every point of your lot has to be 80% of 75, I mean, you're gonna make so many lots non-conforming in this town. it makes no sense.
75 feet is not wide at all.
You're saying 80%, no point of your lot can be less than 80% of 75, which is 50-something feet, right? There's lots that are triangles, there's lots that look like this, where that might only be 15 feet. You're saying that's now non-conforming, that's crazy.
Then the alternative is between the front lot line and the minimum required setback, it can't be any less than 80 feet.
That's,
80% whatever, which
That
is what
makes
I was
sense.
proposing last time around, but I don't know that everybody
Got
could
it,
visualize it.
right.
Because I don't have an issue with the triangle lots personally, as long as the point's not on the street, but
Jen?
You're going to have to.
I just
do
want a
that.
clear regulation to enforce. That's the problem we have. And that's
With
why we're
what?
trying, a clear regulation.
Did you look at what Allison has?
I understand what she's saying.
Do you like that?
Yeah, it's okay.
so,
Is it enforceable
in all
for you?
districts, the minimum lot width from the front property line to the, well, this is saying rear, but it could be minimum front setback line will be no less than 80% of the required width or frontage you choose.
right, so if you got a
Width or
setback
frontage?
of 35 feet, nowhere in that 35 feet can it be less than 75, I mean,
80%.
80% of 75, so it could go
Which is
from
60.
75 to what, 60?
60.
I thought it was
Right,
56,
which
all right,
is-
so it would go from,
Very narrow, but
say that
so
again?
you would wanna, if you're gonna go by frontage, I think we need to increase the frontage requirements. Because 75 feet is nothing.
What happens when you have a 50 by 50 lot though?
That
Could you-
is,
Your lot's too small, it doesn't meet up the size.
Yeah,
We're
but like
not
a
gonna
lot-
Those are
allow
pre-existing.
lots that,
If
right,
they're
we're not gonna allow
pre-existing,
new lots that
you
small.
can't even
But
develop
I mean a pre-existing one.
like
they
that
are,
there.
you
I don't
have to have a
have
minimum of
nothing.
5,000 square feet.
But if
Or I
they
just have like a
said I
tickle in
had
my
a
throat
50 by
or something, I
50
don't know.
myself,
All
I can't.
buildings, sir.
Oh, right,
Is
what if
it
there's no
not-
house on a 50 by 50?
You
Yeah.
can't build
Nothing you can do. Not
5,000
even
square
48
feet.
protects that.
You lost me. So she's got two lots. Her house is on one. The lot
And
next to
then-
her is 50 by 50. She wants to sell it to her son and put up another house. Can that happen?
No, because she owned both.
Common ownership.
That 40A with the common ownership is not 5,000 square feet, you cannot build that.
Even if it wasn't common ownership.
It's gotta be
not
5,000, it's gotta be 50 by 100.
So is this
So how
for
many
new-
lots are in the Merrick section that are 50 by 50?
Very little, most of them are 50 by 100.
Are they?
Are those grandfathered in?
No, not if they're sold.
They're considered pre-existing non-conforming, but if
They're-
they,
they're sold, right?
if they are demolished by a fire or tornado, by Mass General Law, they're allowed to be rebuilt, not by our
Okay.
zoning ordinance, by Mass General Law
Okay.
40A.
But.
But if it's an
within a
empty
certain
lot-
time of period, if it's always been vacant, yes, it's protected by our zoning ordinance, if it's at least 5,000 square feet.
Right,
For
50
single
by
and
100.
two family. But if it was built upon and then the house was demolished, and then 20 years later somebody wants to build on it, no.
No.
What's the time frame?
It lost
2
its-
2 years.
It's 2
Huh?
years.
2 years.
2
So
years.
is 2 years long enough? Because what happened?
We're getting
if
off
the
subject here. Let's get back to the lot width.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Well, why
because
don't
we had that
do
conversation,
we're just
Yeah.
down here.
that 2-year thing.
Yeah, I don't remember.
That's in the Mass General Law too,
Yeah.
so
Oh, 2 years is-
that's in the Mass General Law
Really?
40A.
So are we in agreement that we're gonna get rid of, let's start here, are we in agreement that we're gonna get rid of the circle idea?
Well, I would say we would entertain that. We don't have anything to replace it yet, so I don't wanna say get rid of it without something good to replace it.
Okay.
Or something agreed upon to replace. I mean, we could agree to do more research, like Bill
Working.
said.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
a working
I-
definition that we can go off of.
The circle, like that
I
house
just
just
feel
built on
like-
Breton Road, this circle would have worked on that property. But you fought Patrick forever trying to gain a little bit of property on the rear, just to do average lot width.
Right.
Which I think average lot width, I don't like, it's hard to calculate, and, you know, where's your middle measurement, and
Yep.
I always struggle with it. But the circle would have worked on that property for you, it would have saved you probably a year of headaches, so. but it won't
I
work
mean-
with every situation.
That didn't take much to switch your mind.
Good job, Jay.
I guess, what's the problem with the circle, other than the, other than the flag lots?
Yes,
Right.
I think if that's, if this works as far as lot width, then it's helpful to the building department, because they're the ones that struggle with this.
That's kind of what I'm thinking
So
too.
I don't
know,
object
that's what I'm
to
thinking
the,
too.
I don't object to the method, but if the intent is to get rid of a particular type of lot, I think it needs a lot more thought process than that.
So how would you, if you use this, how would you have to, how would you say this doesn't pertain to a flag lot?
Say it.
Well,
Well, no, that's not fair.
Or you'd have to put flag
I
lot
think-
in this diagram.
Flag lot, I
It's a flag lot.
think you have to deal with flag lots
It's
on their
like
own,
a lot,
Separate.
well, it's
Thank you.
just not like a,
which is what you said from the
it's
beginning.
like a different.
Right.
No,
I
it would
think
be,
that
but
they-
But then you have
it's like a
to,
lot that
no,
doesn't
then you
have.
can't.
And the
No.
lot,
It's
the
almost
lot,
like
The
a lot
flag
to go
lot
like
has
that.
its own,
this is
And then what do
own
you do?
criteria.
You're right.
Period.
So when you measure the width of a flag lot, you're not using this.
That's
You're
correct.
gonna use a whole different.
A whole
and
separate.
then there's another lot.
But do you
lot.
have
rules
frontage
for a flag
about
lot.
as much as lot?
So it looks
Now
like a
you're gonna
lot,
come up with
a
the
flag.
rules for flag lots, and
Yes,
if you're gonna
that's why
twist
they-
the
Sorry,
definition
I-
of flag around, you're gonna have
Oh,
someone
so
grapple
it's
that,
not-
trying to.
oh,
Like
I
L
see.
shape.
Someone's got
Oh,
five
that
lots,
makes
they
sense.
can do it for
So there's
as many
the
houses
flag
as
lot
they can.
and then the
Right.
lot.
And you're
Right,
gonna
and
twist
the-
that definition
what
of
people
flag lot as many
generally
ways
don't
as you
like is
can.
having a
And that's
house.
what they do, and try to get
Trust me.
15 houses on a
Behind.
5 acre lot.
Yeah,
It's
so a
Yeah.
flag lot, there's a
Yeah.
flag lot on Earth.
We were trying to come up with
It's a
some
lot.
kind of definition to stop people from coming with a little 20-foot strip.
I wouldn't
and
either.
then
Someone lives like literally.
coming out
Yeah.
a crazy triangle,
Right.
get
Look
75 feet
out
of
your
frontage,
front window,
and then
it's
squeeze a
almost
lot.
like
this
this
person.
In fact,
My
right
house
outside
is
the
here
road,
and you live
or
next
Deuce,
to
Yeah,
it.
that's
You
what we
never
do.
expected
those
that.
two little
Right.
lots
Right.
back there. They got crazy
So I think
configuration,
that's
squeeze
flag
as many
lots.
houses as they could have.
Or no
But
building
that
on
can
the
be,
flag.
that can be controlled by saying,
But now
But
you
Jay,
just jumped
the
to
pole
the
needs
You're
pole.
right, so
Well,
I'm
on
doing
top.
it in the lot that
Just
we just
jumped
started.
and said, say that.
But those,
You went like,
but those lots, all
not
of those
fair.
lots are over an acre, there's no hardship to the town or the neighborhood. And that's all I'm saying. Yes, the crazy lot that the engineers try to devise, to get around the lot with, we need to address that, but I think we need to address it with specifics. So,
And it could
no,
be with-
and it's not gonna be easy.
It could be with, average lot size then, if you're gonna
It
have a
could
flag
be.
lot, then make it.
Could be,
And
could be
that
a
would help
combination of
the,
both of those dimensions, absolutely.
that would help the family that has the
But
4
I-
acres of land, they wanna split it up for,
For the
and if
kids.
they only have a couple 100 feet of frontage.
Right.
And they wanna split it up, then maybe you could make a criteria where average lot area.
right, nice,
is there more than one way that you, I guess is there more than one way that you can do this? Like,
Do
so
what?
if we go with, so Jay says, this is helpful in finding that point, it kinda takes away all that ambiguity that can be, when this happened. So let's do so you do the circle for that. Is there another way that you could keep the circle and do something else to
well,
determine?
the problem is you can't use this for every style lot.
Right, so what I'm
So-
saying is there a way that we can keep this for the, everyday lots, like that come through, so they have a guide, but then is there another way to define something different to help
Well, that's
with
what,
those
that's what
situations?
he's saying, is
Say
to do
make
a
a
separate
flag lot.
section.
But I wouldn't say, I guess I wouldn't use the term flag lot.
Irregular.
There's something, something
Yeah.
different, but where they could use two things to get to accomplish it without being,
Well, let me,
I
let
don't
me
know what
just,
I'm
let
trying
me
to
just
say.
throw
Like,
this
I-
out.
No,
If you
I
look at-
understand what-
If you look at example, the middle example number 2 here. So this does not comply, the building department can't give a building permit on that lot. So suppose they move the dimension Y, they move it back to get to get the circle in there, to get it to comply. So how does that harm the neighborhood? Somebody tell me that.
Yeah, I don't think.
Right, because it's a further setback.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that the setback, as it's described in the ordinance, is minimum.
Right.
It's the minimum required, not the
Not the
maximum.
maximum.
So if that guy wanted that to be a compliant lot,
He
he would
pushes it back.
push it
Pushes
back,
his
and
house
now
back
his
again.
setback would be 40 feet instead of
Right.
35.
But
But
that's
it doesn't
okay.
meet this definition. So that's
You
what,
could still have 50 feet coming up and then bowing out. It doesn't, I don't see how it solves.
Well, what do you mean you have 50
Still-
feet? You still gotta have a minimum frontage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they still have to have a minimum frontage.
is
Right.
this
You
the old?
exceeded it if you move
This,
back.
I don't know what this is. I don't know why mine's different. I don't think it resolves the issue, just cause you're setting it further back. It would
Yeah.
have to be really far back, do you know what I mean?
Not on that diagram, I
No,
would just
what do
go
you
back a
mean?
little bit. Are you looking?
Yeah, but then why bother with it? It's like, you just move it around till the circle fits somewhere, which isn't the point.
What's the point then? What, I get,
To
Why
what's
apply
the-
a consistent rule to everybody.
But if everybody's circle fits in that land, then it is a rule that everybody,
so are you
Alright,
saying, so
so
all the
what's-
houses
Well,
line
so
up?
then any
Then what's-
flag lot is allowed, literally any flag lot, as long as you can fit the circle somewhere. So if I have 50
Right.
feet and
She's
then
saying
it
it
gets
has to
really
be at
big
the
in the
setback.
back,
I understand what she's saying.
No,
it's,
but
the
see, they
circle
wouldn't
fits
be
right
able
there.
to use the 50 feet because we've set a minimum frontage.
Okay, so if say this frontage is 75, you still, 75 feet is not very wide when all
Correct.
the other lots have 100 or whatever.
What
What
And
we
then-
need to prevent and make consistent is that 75 feet until there's a buildable area.
So then I think the frontage needs to be greater than 75 feet. At least in some of,
so
not
I
all
mean-
the zones, but in some of them.
Perhaps, but I mean, it's merely an access and the driveway's what, tops 12, 14 feet wide. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
if your setback
75
is longer. then-
So let me ask you, this property owner, what's his relief?
his relief, I mean,
I mean, does he go to you guys?
No, if it's a new
no,
lot,
it,
it's a
yeah.
variance.
Right,
it's a
we're
new
talking
lot,
about
I
new
mean,
lots, so.
Yeah, I know, so there's no relief. I mean, I
See,
I have trouble with that.
I mean, it's, if we're using this middle example, if this individual had the adequate amount of frontage, then yeah, that house can just get pushed back a few, so what? I
Okay,
mean,
so
they
what
all
you're
have to
saying-
But that's
be-
what he's saying.
What you're saying then, which I think I said in the beginning, is that frontage has gotta be maybe just as important as lot width?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has 75 feet is, for like a residence A zone is nothing.
No, I mean, you're living on top of your neighbors, basically.
No, but you're talking about a driveway, not putting a house in
No, no,
75
it-
feet.
I understand that, Frank.
The
So as-
uniqueness of
as a-
these
as-
irregular shaped lots needs to be accommodated on their own, you know? You just, because they're all different.
Would you call it a substandard lot and have a definition for that?
I don't like
Oh,
that.
that's not good.
I mean, I even sort of live on a weird lot, it's just like, mine's on the curve of a road, so it's just like, it's just like,
But you have.
See, I mean, I'm looking at 75
You-
feet in
I
a
don't know what your
residential
back-
zone. To me, if I was that neighbor, I'd rather live next to that buffer zone with some nice trees and then the driveway than have a house right there. You know what I'm saying?
The house is in your
Not-
backyard though.
yeah, but
I
I
mean,
mean,
that
you
statement was, I
chose to
wasn't too happy
sell.
about the house in the backyard, but I'm saying, as far as entering, you know what I mean? I don't think 75 feet's too small to put a driveway and a buffer zone on each side.
Absolutely not.
So now the guy that's here and the guy that's here, they don't have a neighbor, they got trees and a driveway in the middle. I don't personally have a problem with that.
I
So
don't
are you
either.
talking
Now,
shared
they have the,
driveway?
Huh? No,
Like if the house is set back further, what she's saying is if you're
Right.
A
going
flag lot.
back, then you're gonna have just the house isn't gonna line up.
I'm not talking about the house in the back, I don't want a house in my backyard, I
Right,
don't
with
think
the
anybody
trees in
does,
the
but
driveway.
to get to that portion of the lot, I think 75 feet frontage is plenty.
It is for that purpose, but it doesn't deter the undesirable types of flag lots.
Well, we have to regulate flag lots in a whole separate, if we're gonna allow them, we have to regulate that in a whole separate area. Has to be a certain size.
Yeah, this is gonna take like cause I honestly don't have a very good knowledge of what is gonna, I'm just listening to you guys and I totally admit that I don't know the answer to it.
We had the same problem on the planning board. We did.
I don't know the
We
answer
emailed
to it. I don't know what, I don't know why
Is there
things
another?
come up or what's gonna work for them. The deal, we're trying to do this to make their job
Was that
easier.
conversation last
But
night?
we're also listening
You wanna
to
renege on
someone who
that?
does this and has these
Huh?
experiences, and I think that's all a very valid point. What?
He's
How long
harassing
it was
me.
gonna take.
Yeah,
Well,
Reach
but-
says, oh, we'll be buttoned
so is
up in a
this
year.
gonna
I'm
be
like,
for
you are
all-
out of your mind.
Residences?
Say that, I'm
It's
sorry,
gonna
say
depend on
that
the
again.
zone, cause they're talking about the difference between RA and RA1, and there's frontage differences, so that's the other, like
So if I understand what Bill is saying correctly, we're looking at parts of town being more dense than other parts of town.
Correct.
And that's not gonna change, that's gonna stay the same or get worse.
But we also don't want, I don't know, pick a section of town, you know, to look like Merrick section with house.
That's what's
There's
gonna
a
happen
few
on
around,
Elm
not-
Street.
Not a lot. There's a few around.
Why?
Consider worse would be
It's gonna get dense.
in this zone.
what'd you say?
I throw my hands up on that because it, you know, I
That
don't
your
wanna
public
live in a
hearing is
dense
tonight on
area
that?
any more than I already
They
do.
didn't know there was gonna be a house right in front of it.
What's going on there?
That's a good example.
On that corner, they wanna change that zone.
Right.
That's tonight, so if anybody's got anything to say, show up.
I know, but I don't know how to say it.
Say
you know.
against it.
Say, I don't
Council
think
has
it's
final say. so-
Which
Yeah.
corner are we talking about? I know.
monastery. Right?
Corner of
Monastery
Monastery,
now?
in between Walt Brothers and Monastery.
Alright, so we'll get to that, maybe we have.
But, and not to bring that up, but that's why I asked that question, is that you're gonna turn other sections of this community into American Memorial section. And it's gonna be more dense, and people don't like that. But,
Well, we're talking about a zone change, that's not, nothing.
I think that's a stretch. I think we're talking about potential land parcels or houses with an adjacent lot, in areas that aren't dense. And, you know, I don't see that as being a wholesale, opportunity to make different areas of town more dense than they are.
And you still have
I
a
mean, the house
minimum
that
lot
you're-
area.
Doing
What?
up
There's
there
still a minimum
is a
lot area.
perfect example, I mean,
Like
just
RA is
empty
40,000
space, I don't know if it's a lot that
30.
somebody just
RC.
never built on, or.
RC
exactly what it
is,
The person passed away,
I
right,
think it's
and then you
10,000.
found the
RC
house
is,
for that.
depends what you put on there.
So somebody
Full
wanted the
family,
luxury of having some space next to
10,000
them
square
or
feet for two
whatever.
family.
And then the zoning changed along the way.
Yeah.
You
Those
what?
houses were built
What?
probably
Jay
in the,
Jay knows the
I don't know,
ordinance better than
50s,
I do.
60s?
You know,
60s and
you know it
70s.
better than I do.
but if you're gonna make it more dense, then I also think you need to make it off subject, but you need to make it more walkable and more accessible and user friendly.
Yeah, but I think you're taking dense out of contents of what Bill's talking about. You know, when you think of dense, you're thinking of Merrick section. When he mentioned dense, it's, again, my lot where there's 8 acres in the back and there's only 150 feet of frontage. So how do you get back there shy of a subdivision? Well, what if I just wanna put another house back there, one house back there, you know what I mean? Now you can't do it.
What about the example of, I think it was was it Batera? The boys got
Yeah.
left like
Yeah, there's a perfect
unbelievable
example.
amount of land, okay?
It was 14 acres?
I
Or
don't
no,
know.
It was a
20
lot.
something,
They
whatever.
have two houses up there.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
but
what
they
they
had
went
to go
through.
through like so much stuff to, so the father passed away, a boy, from what I remember, a boy already lived there. And the other son wanted to build a house next to the brother, right? And they had all this land and they couldn't build a house on it. But they had tons of land to build a house.
But there, again, that, you know, there's,
That's an example though of where there was abundance of land and not an easy way to build.
not
There were a
an
lot of
easy way. They
wetlands
could have
on
done a
that.
subdivision, correct?
Yep.
You know,
You only need 60 feet per street, where you need 75 feet of frontage, so.
Right, but to play devil's advocate, to that effect, the subdivision is gonna end up being more dense than the person who
Well,
wanted
one
one
house.
house.
Right, exactly.
so, you know,
But that was a big thing, I mean.
right, but again, you can't, as a board, you can't look at that, oh, they're two brothers, because they could
No,
get in a
we
fight
can.
tomorrow and sell
Right.
it to
That's a-
somebody else, and they're no longer two brothers.
Yeah, but I mean, well, I just, that
Living
was
it.
the example that we had, I'm just using that for an example as a whole.
And me, as a neighbor,
Yeah.
I'd rather have those two houses there than a subdivision.
Subdivision.
You have to accommodate the unusual and unique pieces. That's all I'm talking
Yeah.
about, is accommodating these pieces that are in a very small 17 square miles town,
You know, theoretically, they could sell all that to Bill, and Bill could go in there and say, I'm gonna turn that into a subdivision. Turn that into a street, right? And put a subdivision up in the back. So it's not like they eliminated the possibility, but we accommodated I don't know, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, it's 8:45.
We blew that 45 minutes.
We got
Oh, I
nowhere, to
think-
be honest with you.
Yeah, we didn't really get anywhere, but I think that needs to be something that's an ongoing, I don't know the answer, so I don't know
Well-
on the
Can we check
direction.
other
if
towns, maybe, see how other towns deal with
Most
that?
other towns are, well, that's not true.
Well,
It's
and-
either one way or the other.
But it's
Well,
also,
all
other towns are
towns must
different.
wrestle with this.
Right,
Right,
they're
it's-
also different, like,
Yeah.
like you said, Westfield has much more, you know, like they probably look at things a little bit differently. But I guess I would like to do it so that their job is easier, but I'd also
Absolutely.
like to not, I do agree with the point where you say like, let's not, we shouldn't just zone to say like, to get rid of something, you don't like the intent behind that. So if that's not the intent, and we can help them, and then add a definition to something that makes it not have a bad intent, then we can cover both bases and, you know, but I don't know,
So we need,
What that
I
is.
think the thing to do then is to work on, to work on this issue of irregular shaped lots and get it in there somehow with lot width.
So can I make a suggestion, probably not gonna be popular, but I think that the building department deals with it and the planning department deals with it. Sounds like they have somewhat of a different opinion on how it should be done. So maybe those two should sketch something out away from each other, you know, and then either we hire somebody or we ask Bill to put his suggestions out as a builder. You got 3 people here that are more qualified than any of us.
yeah.
And then we take those 3 and we beat the crap out of them.
Well,
Because we're getting nowhere right now, to be honest
Yeah,
with
and
you.
I don't, like I said, I don't have the knowledge to even contribute.
I would like a wider sample of opinions.
A what?
Okay.
A wider sample of opinions.
Okay, where are we getting them? Where you want them?
I don't know, but I just,
So what about that guy? Who was that guy that came the first meeting?
Jonathan?
What's he do? Can he do it?
I mean, I want like residents to weigh in. I mean,
Yeah, but
we're
think
planning
about,
for the whole town.
I understand that, but, and I'm not insulting anybody, but we've got people here, like Bridget saying, she has no clue,
What we're
like
talking
what we're,
about.
can you imagine bringing some residents in? I'm not saying there isn't
And
any
if
out
they have
there.
a flag lot.
Nobody wants a flag lot next door. I understand that.
Which I
Except the guy that owns it.
right. I mean, I agree with that. I think that's I think of those people on Bernie and like they literally like look out their front window and look into someone else's back like kitchen window. Like,
Okay,
that
so
sounds terrible.
not the.
Well,
But
except
that's
that
not
they-
my choice. Like
except
they
it's the
can,
worst
if
case.
they want to
Except
buy the
that they
house,
bought
they
it.
can. Right.
Yeah.
But
And
what's the
that's-
difference, what's the difference with yesterday morning? Mr., what's his name, doesn't like looking at a house's backyard. It's not a flag lot, it's a development right behind him.
That's
So-
one person.
All right.
No, but I'm saying, whether it's a flag lot or a development behind you, you know, the only way you have to stop that is buy the land.
Right.
That's it. So you can't
buy the
stop,
flag lot.
you can't stop someone that owns, you shouldn't be stopping someone that owns property
From doing
from,
what they want
from,
with it if they.
well, within reason.
Yeah,
We
I
can
agree.
regulate it. So all I'm saying is we pick on flag lots. I 100% agree they need to be regulated. They need to be way larger than a normal lot, you know. But, so, you're looking at a house in your backyard. None of us
You can
want
choose
to,
to do
but
that.
what if I sell my 8 acres
Well, someone
and someone
clearly
puts a
does.
subdivision in there? I got a house in my backyard. And it's not a flag lot.
Like
I'm
the
there
Wheeler
first.
one,
Huh?
Built
Wheeler.
behind me.
You're there and then the one next to you gets.
Yeah.
Frances Wheeler, when they did
Although
that
I
construction,
think
that
that
little farmhouse that
Yeah.
used to own all that land, now she's stuck in the middle of all the big houses and nobody really wants to buy a house.
I mean,
I think we pick on flag lots for the wrong reason. I definitely agree that they need more requirements. I definitely agree it should be a funnel off the street. I definitely agree maybe the setback from the house that you're behind should be bigger. I'm not saying any of that, but I just look at it if, you know, we don't want a house in our backyard. Well, what if it was the next street over?
What about Reed's suggestion in making a separate thing for flag lots? What do you think
Well,
about that,
it
Allison?
would have to be.
Yeah, we're gonna, if we do flag lots, we're
They would
gonna.
have to have special dimensional requirements, some of which are in excess of traditional lots, some of which may be less, like lot width. So, but it needs time, it needs time.
Okay.
So again, can't leave here without a plan. You know,
Lot width gets tabled for the time
I'm
being.
fine, and what I'll do is I'll also reach out to Jonathan and tell him that we're having, if he has any sort of, I know that he had stated, you know, he's even wrote other people, so, you know, like, he's definitely probably come across it, if he could give us any sort of,
I'm sorry, I'm good with her suggestion, but not open it up to a
No,
world of
Jonathan,
residents.
I'm
No, I know, but what
yeah.
about all the council members? They're gonna have to approve this anyways, so it doesn't matter what, no.
But no offense to all of you guys, you're still a very narrow part of the population.
Yeah.
Well, that's the function of committees, though.
well, I'm gonna call, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, but
I'm
it's
gonna
a-
call
it's pretty-
Jonathan
it's
and
pretty-
ask for his suggestion.
Of course.
It's
On-
pretty, it's pretty,
His thoughts on
broad.
it, and then how the idea that, you know,
I think we
maybe
got a broad.
it's opened up, I don't know.
Next meeting, I'll bring, I just wrote down, I think I got 3 examples of, areas where there's flag lots. Maybe if we lay them out on the table.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We're building one on Morgan Road right now,
Are they-
Yeah.
right across the street from
Well,
that group
the
home.
way it is now, you can do
Steve
it.
Abbott. Steve Abbott, your concrete guy.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, right behind,
Where?
Did you say Bernie?
like across from Bernie,
Okay.
in that area down a little bit. You come out of Bernie, take a left and look on your right, it's right,
Gotta be
right
close
close
to
to
a
it.
swamp back there, it's gonna have
Oh,
an in-ground
really?
pool and a cellar, but it's just like, hey, no.
I would think that it's like water.
Hmm?
Is that water?
No, he went through conservation, there's an area, he had to push the house closer to Vincent, yeah, Vincent.
I know there's a lot of people up in arms about that one.
Right, it's not my backyard syndrome.
It's a flag lot, but it's legal because you met the minimum lot width requirements because of the rear, the center, and then the front. He owned the house in front, so he was able to sell it himself or do an A&R to get 75 feet of frontage, so it's another one of those where the property comes down 20 feet and then it shuts off automatically and gets the 75 feet of frontage. But once it gets back there, he's got 200 and whatever in the back and 200 something in the middle and 75 in the front. He meets the average lot width.
See, again, that whole funnel thing, I'm against.
I got heartburn over
That's
the
where
funnel
trouble.
thing, but it's just like,
Yeah,
you know,
heartburn over
it's
the
just
funnel
like,
thing.
the market is gonna dictate the value of a flag lot.
Right,
It's just like, if you
That's
don't
very
wanna
true.
live there, you're not gonna
then
buy
you're
it.
gonna buy something else.
Right, but we're not discussing this only based on the flag lot, we're discussing it about the neighbors that are getting stuck with the flag lot next door.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's about the funnel where all of a sudden they got 75 feet of frontage, but yet they go out in their backyard and there's a driveway right there. That's my problem. If you're gonna have a 75 foot, that pole of the flag needs to be 75 foot all the way back. It can't go down to 20
There's a
feet.
crappy one right off the corner of my street, on, across from Valley View. It's just like, I think the guy's got probably 12 feet of frontage that goes back there, and it's just like, there's literally a wall of arborvitaes that separate this house from that house. I mean, they're talking about living on top of each other. But it doesn't appeal to me, but, and that house in the front, they're the ones that sold the property. That house in the front took forever to sell.
So again, I think we should make a decision whether we're gonna separate flag lots from regular lots,
I'm
because
gonna
you'll
call
never
Jonathan.
get a width.
I'm gonna call Jonathan, and I'm
Okay.
gonna report back at the next meeting as to what it is that he suggests that we do.
Right, and I'll think of some
Keep that
ways to,
circle thing and it's-
Right.
what the
keep that circle,
dimensional-
But it's an irregular shape lot.